when I've been working with clients or in courses, I just see how this lack of forgiveness can destroy people's lives for years. And sometimes people go to their grave without having forgiven someone. And 80% of the time, the person we want to forgive, we do actually love, which is why it's so painful that some incidents happen, some words, obviously a whole range. Some things are really horrendous, and it's extraordinary how sometimes people can't even forgive the horrendous things. In the end, forgiveness is about releasing yourself from bonds. And if you don't forgive, it's like you're in a prison. So Adriana, although it's on my Zoom, Adriana actually invited me on this. So we're kind of, in a way, we're both the hosts, you could say. But thank you very much, Adriana, for organizing this. It's really nice to be able to have this opportunity to have a conversation with you. And we'll see what comes out of this. I think it will be interesting. And if anybody has questions along the way, you can put them in the chat or you can wait for when we have the opportunity for questions. Do you want to say any more?
It's really lovely to be here with all of you and to meet you, to get to know you. And some of the people who were invited today, they know Lucy and some know me. So we will introduce both of us, just so we are sure that everybody knows everyone. So about Lucy, she has been a breath practitioner for over 30 years. And she teaches several online transformational programs, including the Path of Forgiveness, the Breath of Life program, and the Who Am I series at the Who Am I Quest. And I find it fascinating that there is an entire course just about breath, and it takes even quite some years. So that's wonderful. We'll be talking about it. And if you want to add something about you, Lucy.
Yes, so my background is in the breath. That's how I began really on this transformational journey. That was my first opening in my late 20s. And I was so lucky to have found that very young because the 20s are a pretty tumultuous decade, aren't they? So, although I was at the end of the 20s, I could have done with this really when I was 19, I think. But certainly by the end of the 20s, I'd found a tool I could start using to enhance my life, basically. And also, once I trained, to help enhance other people's lives. So, I just wanted to add that. So, that is my original training long, long ago.
Right. And a few words about me. I have been a personal development teacher for 10 years. And over the last year, I have developed 9-part Emotional Alchemy online course. And I also organize interviews online, such as the one today, or inspiring conversations with interesting people about various approaches on working with emotions. So that's about the introducing us.
Yeah, I find it really interesting because you run this emotional alchemy course, which I find really fascinating because I've never actually taught just about emotions. Obviously, emotions come into everything, but you have done, I think it's a 9-part course just about emotions, which I think is really fascinating and so important too.
Yeah, oftentimes people don't even realize that what everything is an emotion. Like the courage, for example. When I thought it as an emotion, people were like scratching their head. Is that an emotion? Yeah, it is an emotion also. And yeah, we can look with that kind of optics on love, on also on forgiveness that we will be talking about, this everything happens in the domain of emotions.
Do you know what emotion actually means out of interest? I mean, the origin of the word.
Well, there are very many definitions, but the the most simple one is that it's the energy in motion, like emotion.
Of course, yeah. Yeah. That's perfect, actually.
So, Lucy, tell us about your work with emotions in the context of the breath work. Like you have a vast experience, and you were working with different clients who had different challenges. For example, I heard in some of the testimonies that you helped people with anxiety, for example, and that it is very wonderful to go through this breath program for healing this problem. So please tell us more about it.
Yes, well, I think anyone that works with human beings has to work with emotions because we are a bundle of emotions, everybody, men, women, any age. And it's a matter of how much it can dominate our lives and how much we can be more detached. So I worked for many years with one-on-one clients, and that was usually people would come because they had something they were very unhappy with in their lives. That would often be the reason for coming. And the breath that I would do is a conscious, connected breath. And that breath is very much, it's about the flow of breath. And with that flow, it can unblock emotions inside. And that's what happened to me the very first time I had this breath on myself. I just cried for about 2 hours. So that can help to release stuck emotion. And part of it is that the very first breath we take is when we're born. So if you start changing the pattern of your breathing, you can start reconnecting right to the beginning of your life, you could say. And this can bring up emotions right from the moment you're born. If you had a difficult birth, you'd have emotions connected to that. Obviously, you've got no language at that point. But these things can start coming up the more you work with the breath in a conscious way. In more recent years, well, the last 10 years, I've worked with a lot more variety of different kinds of breath. And so there are different breaths for different emotions, in a way, you could say. The kind of pandemic at the moment is this holding your breath or breathing right up here, which could be anxiety. Some people call it stress. Stress and anxiety is very similar, actually. Um, and it's sort of like you're people do their best in life, and it's like people are trying to kind of hang in there and keep control of their lives. And they think if they don't breathe too deeply, I mean, it's not that conscious, but it's sort of semi-conscious. If they don't breathe too deeply, maybe they can keep a handle on these emotions and get on with life so life doesn't fall apart. But then the problem is you start living in this chronic anxiety, chronic depression, chronic stress, because you're keeping it always under this kind of, it's almost like a false control, really. But the reality is, when you do start deepening your breath, things will come up, and not everyone's ready for that. So you have to be ready for that. But the reality is, if you suppress your sadness, you're also suppressing your joy. So by having a superficial breath to try and think you're keeping life under control, you're also suppressing joy and life and energy. And in the end, you can start getting terrible health conditions, mental and physical. So There's an awful lot to say about this, Adriana. So I don't know if you want to add to that yourself, your experience of breath. Have you done much with the breath yourself?
Well, I was mostly working with breath from the point of view of yoga, as when it is called the pranayama, there, the difficult Sanskrit word for breathing. And uh, they are definitely the ways we breathe are connected with the emotions. For example, for the anger management, there are also some tips how to manage anger using the breath. Like then it will be recommended to slow down the breath, count to, I don't know, 5, 10, or reverse counting, and even stopping the breath, because that will kind of cut off the supply of air for that anger that needs it to live. And then recently I've learned one of the yogic techniques that is called the heroic breath. And then you are there with the open chest and you have this really attitude of a hero. And it creates that kind of setting, like you feel like a being who is capable of anything.
What is that breath?
It's called Ujjayi Pranayama. But for me, it's still very interesting to explore these connections between the emotions and breath, and the heart and the breath also, because there are some exercises, for example, in the couple that I have experienced that recently, and it was just a breath exercise without talking, but it was. As one of the benefits of it was emotional communication. And then when I read the description of this exercise, I was wondering, like, how could this help with the communication? We are not talking at all. But then, as the exercise was unfolding, then my beloved, who had the role there to listen to my breath and synchronize with it and emit certain emotion, it was an emotion of love, then he could actually understand a lot about what I'm feeling just by focusing on my heart, because that when the heartbeat changes, which definitely happens when we experience emotions, also the rhythm of the breath changes. And whilst we cannot so easily to feel the pulse of other people, we can tune into the rhythm of the breath, and then also have much more empathy with them. And it was really wonderful. It was like a miraculous technique.
Yes, if you want to understand how someone's feeling, it's an amazing thing to copy their breath. I don't think you need to do it for very long, and you don't want to do it for very long if the other person's in a depressed state, but it could be the opposite. If you want to uplift yourself, you could start copying the breath of someone that's very joyful and happy, and even just for a few moments to remind yourself how you could feel. So, yeah, it's an amazing thing mirroring the breath. We don't think about doing it, and you can do it in a very subtle way without the person even noticing.
Yeah. And Lucy has generously offered to do a demonstration exercise of one of these breath techniques, the heart breath, and we will do that right at the end of this session. So if you want to experience it, how that feels, what it can do, and I saw the description and it looks really delicious, then stay with us until the end. And the other part of your work, Lucy, or like one of them, because there are many facets of what you do, is the course on forgiveness that will be actually starting really soon, exactly in 1 week's time, next Wednesday.
Exactly. Yeah. This
Uh,
time next week. Yeah.
yes. So I would like to know what brought you to be interested in forgiveness, and something, a little pieces of inside information about your course.
Inside information. Well, I think it's a little bit like I was saying, when you work with human beings, you have to work with emotions. And forgiveness has just been something that comes up over and over and over again. And I did a lot of forgiveness myself in really, I think, like my late 20s, 30s. And I learned quite a few techniques in that period from other people. And then when I've been working with clients or in courses, I just see how this lack of forgiveness can destroy people's lives for years. And sometimes people go to their grave without having forgiven someone. And more often than not, it's someone we actually love. I mean, sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it is someone that we really don't love. But I would say 80% of the time, the person we want to forgive, we do actually love, which is why it's so painful that some incidents happen, some words, obviously a whole range. Some things are really horrendous, and it's extraordinary how sometimes people can't even forgive the horrendous things. But in the end, forgiveness is about releasing yourself from bonds. And if you don't forgive, it's like you're in a prison. It's like you're tied up in steel bonds and you're the biggest victim, and it just eats you up inside. So I think forgiveness can be a really fast transformation of your emotions. I think it can um, lighten you hugely. And, sometimes it's like two steps forward, one step back, but, sometimes it's a process. Sometimes it can be whole total forgiveness instantaneously. I've seen that happen, I've experienced it. But other times it's like a kind of chipping away. You begin the process, you begin to at least having the intention to forgive. The intention's the first step. And then it's like taking steps, and it depends um, how hurt you are, how much courage you have, and learning empathy and detachment. I think those are the two key qualities. I don't even know if you'd call empathy an emotion, but to really forgive, you need empathy and detachment, and that could be towards yourself or it could be towards another. So empathy is feeling this opening of the heart, the expansion of the heart, a kind of love without judgment. And actually, empathy comes with detachment itself. They're combined. And people can develop those qualities, and it doesn't have to take a long time to develop. I mean, it's easier as you get older. I mean, it's much harder to have empathy, when you're a teenager. It is to some extent a learned skill, but it doesn't have to take a lifetime. Now I've forgotten what your question was, Adriana.
Well, it was what inspired you to start this journey with forgiveness. And then tell us a little bit about the course, like something.
Yeah, so in the end, I was inspired because I feel it's a faster way for people to transform. And all my work is about aiming to give the space for people to transform. And forgiveness is so pure and powerful. And it's also something I think we can all relate to and understand. There are some transformational practices that are much more complex and you can get lost down the rabbit hole in it. But I think forgiveness, we all get a sense of what it is. And I think we've all forgiven to some extent, either ourselves or others. And so I think we do get it really. Um, And so in the course, it's only 6 sessions. It's quite a short little course. The first half is about self-forgiveness, and the second half is forgiving others. You have to begin with the self-forgiveness. Um, so it's a mixture of presentation, visualization, breakout rooms. Yeah. I
Great.
mean, I've done it live too. I've done it, forgiveness days and forgiveness retreat. But yeah, what's coming up now is online because obviously not everyone can get to the Lake District in England. So,
What is this breakout rooms you said?
well, that's where you can go into a small group with 4 people and it's not recorded. That's the beauty of breakout rooms. It's like going into a private room. It's not recorded, and you're with the same 4 people through those 6 sessions. So you get a kind of safety building up with that. And then obviously in the main group, you can ask Q&A, and no one has to share what they don't want to, because some people have some things which they're really ashamed of, and no one has to say more than they want to say. So you choose how far you want to go. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
there's a lot of shame. There's a lot of shame around the subject. So
We have a comment there from Rhea that it sounds like a lovely course, and I agree indeed. I had also some problematic alignment and a lot of anger towards a person close to me, and it was very complicated for me to transform it, and it took years and with very little progress. And then this forgiveness was a lifesaver. That's true. And then I tried all kind of techniques. Like there's techniques that you write down and you repeat all over and again. What do you want to forgive? Like this kind of mechanical that it, somehow you're hoping that it gets assimilated to your subconscious, and then some transformation will occur. And I had whole books of how I wrote this, but it was not so effective. What helped me very much was when I started praying, and I was praying to my angel, guardian angel, to the angel of that person, and then they kind of work in a very miraculous way. And in that period, it was a little hard for me. I didn't really go out so much and didn't interact with people. So the angels had a tough job how to transmit me a message if I am so closed. But I was reading books, so they were coming with some hidden messages in the books, and it was like so similar to my situation and that story there. And it was describing the feelings of both people and how they were karmically connected from previous lives, and how it was affecting their future. And I was just crying, like tears and streams of water, and that helped me. Like that was one of the turning points for me to see it from another perspective, like the two souls meeting and then not knowing how to interact, basically, and not really wanting to do evil things to one another, but just being in that kind of ignorant state where they didn't have enough education of how otherwise they could do things together.
yeah. Well, that's the empathy, isn't it, Adriana? It's like truly putting yourself in the other person's position, understanding what were they feeling when they did a certain action. Maybe they were just hungry, It's like when people are hungry, they can get really vicious sometimes. I lived with someone like that. He was terrible when he came home from work hungry. And when I fed him, he was all right, but it was like some of the things were really horrible that were said. Um, yeah.
So we have a few minutes left for this conversation. So I want to quickly ask you also about one more emotion that I noticed that was popping up because I did my little homework and I searched all your podcasts and all your posts to see what you're working with, and I found their grief.
I think that was the second podcast that I ever did. It probably hasn't got very good sound, but it was with a beautiful he's a retired psychologist actually, yeah.
And at one place you mentioned that it can have an awakening effect on the soul. And like, could you tell us a little bit about it? Because like we often see grief as some sad, heavy emotion that is not maybe very useful. So what would you tell us about this awakening momentum that it can give to our soul?
Yeah, it's a heart opening, and actually a lot of men are always more reluctant to come to breath work and transformational things. But actually, when I used to do more clients, a lot of men would come from a state of grief. That's what would drive them to actually seek help. And grief is something you can either go up or down. It's like a liminal transitional moment where your world shatters in many ways, and you have this vacuum, this huge loss and sorrow. And you could go right down, or you can transform. It's like, we build up these crusts, these shells around our heart. And in profound grief, it's like all those shells drop away. You can't help crying, and it's like emotions become very intense, and it's a moment of reevaluating everything. And I suppose you've got the choice, because in a way you're going into this it's kind of a mixture of turmoil and void, and you could either go down into the void, or you can go into this I'm trying to think of the right words. I suppose it's like planting new, I was about to say vegetables, planting new plants in this new environment. And yeah, people that do transformational work from the place of grief often really do transform their lives. And I think it's that vulnerability, often you expose yourself more as well. People see more of who you are. And um, yeah. I mean, in an ideal world, you can open up, transform without having to feel grief. But we all have to feel grief, because death happens if nothing else. We all have parents that die, people that we love die, relationships that were very profound ending. Everybody goes through grief. It's part of life. And it's whether we use that as a catalyst. In the end, it's being conscious, isn't it? Being conscious even of your grief, rather than it just kind of happening to you, bringing some awareness to it. My mum's now 93. I'm caring for her right now, and she is on her last legs. You know, I mean, it's a matter of months now. And it's like, in some ways, I feel I'm beginning the grief process already, even before she's died. And yeah, so I suppose it's kind of up for me at the moment. And it's a very huge bond with your mother, isn't it? I mean, I was literally came out of her. So um yeah, so hopefully I can shed some more of my crusts around my heart and see what happens. See what happens isn't really right, is it? Create something wonderful from it. Are you ready for the heart breath, Adriana? Should I do it now?
Yes, please. I'm really looking forward to that.
So this will take 10 minutes, just so you've got some idea. If you want to get into a comfortable position with your back straight and your eyes closed, bring your attention to the center of your chest. With all your power of attention, focus there wholly, completely in your heart. With all your attention focusing on your heart. Every time your mind wanders, just pull it back like a dog on a lead. Pull it back. It's like gym training. Just keep doing it. And now focus your attention on the present moment, the here and the now, the heart of time, with all your attention to the present. And you can use your breath to help you with this. It really helps to focus on your breathing, to bring you into the present moment. Right here, right now. Now bring your attention to focusing on the center of your chest and the present moment at the same time. So bringing yourself into the center of your chest and focusing in the present moment at the same time. And now we're going to change the pattern of our breathing to help create some energy, some flow, to accentuate this focusing in the heart, this focusing in the present moment. So we're going to do a few minutes of the conscious connected breath where there'll be no hold. So we're going to do this through the nose if you can, inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. So there'll be no pause between the exhale and the inhale. So like this. So the inhale and the exhale will be the same length, because obviously it takes slower to breathe in through the nose. So we're going to do this for a few minutes, continually focusing on the present moment and the center of your chest. So nice full inhales. Feel your belly go out when you breathe in, and your belly come in when you breathe out. Keeping your focus on your heart, this portal to eternity, the eternal present. You can even visualize as you're breathing that with each breath you're clearing another bramble. It's like you're gradually cleaning things away. You can do this as a visualization as well. So keep this breath going for a few minutes. You might feel a little bit lightheaded. But that's slightly the purpose of this, to get yourself in a different state to normal. So just keep going. Powerful inhale, clearing the brambles. Relaxed exhale, letting it go. Try and take the breath a little bit deeper, a little bit fuller. The fuller you can go, the more powerful this is. And try not to push the exhale out. This is a relaxed exhale. This is changing your hormonal balance into rest and digest. So nice full inhale in. Relaxed exhale out. Keep the rhythm going. This is a conscious, connected breath. Conscious is the key word. You're doing this with awareness. You're choosing to do this. It's not just happening to you. As you breathe, remember to keep focusing in the center of your chest, visualizing clearing this access to this portal in your spiritual heart, this portal to your soul. It's there in every single human being. Just going to do a couple more minutes. It is quite powerful, this little breath, actually. Hope you're feeling that. So really try and keep up the rhythm, keep up the connection so that you're not doing any pauses. Just welcome this opportunity to get a little bit closer to the center of your being. So that will do. Now bring your breath back to normal, breathing ideally through the nose, nice and slow, breathing deep into your lungs, but not with huge volume. And just become aware of how you're feeling. How is the energy feeling around your heart? Can you feel some sensations, some different vibrations, some energy